So, listeners, in advance, I'm telling you right now, go to Lamentations and you're going to see a picture painted of what he witnessed. And what he saw was witnessed can only be described in nightmares. He saw people that he loved, Shannon, starving to death in the streets. He witnessed the death of little babies, of children that just a few years previous he had held in his arms in swaddling clothes. He saw them die before his eyes. He wept as he walked up and down the streets and heard the ear-piercing screams of mothers holding their dying children, pined away from hunger. And he saw young men of the town pierced through by the invaders with spears, laid dead, carcasses lying in the streets. He witnessed the economy destroyed with failed money. He saw people willing to trade their valuables, their gems and their gold just to get bread. He saw all of the wealth of the city looted by foreigners. He saw people who were once rich reduced to begging in the streets. And God said, Nathan, tell the people, Lamentations is coming to America. The judgment of God is not meant to be pretty. It's not meant to just watch and observe and scratch your shin and say, wow, that was a bad one. No, the judgment of God, even to the very elect, is hard to watch. Paul said, therefore, knowing the terror of the Lord, we persuade men. To a person that knows and understands God, they know that God can be a dark whirlwind. They know that God is a consuming fire. They know that God doesn't play games. They know that God in His majesty would melt any human being and their flesh would melt away like wax. They know that God can look at a mountain and it would disappear like vapor, that rivers and oceans would become steam. They know that. So, Shannon, when we see this judgment over the land, it's going to be harsh, it's going to be real, and it's going to test everyone. Even those of us that consider ourselves the remnant, it's going to test all of us because God has had enough. And He's going to make sure that the people know that it is Him that is doing it.
Okay, so that's pretty scary. That is absolutely terrifying. And, I know there will be a great many out there that would turn around and say, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. They don't think anything like this could ever happen. And I can definitely understand why you would want to feel that way, for sure. Okay, because you would look at yourself and you'd say, I'm a good person. I believe in God. And maybe you do. Maybe you even know the truth and you believe in God. But there are those that don't. And there are those that have chosen to actually intentionally defy God. And, a lot of us operate in a reality where we live in fear. And that's definitely justifiable because it is a fearful world. And, there are certain boundaries you don't want to cross. There are certain things you don't want to talk about. Certain things you keep to yourself. And we live in fear. And you can call that fear of the system. You can call it fear of, the devil. You can just call it fear, but one thing a lot of people tend to not call it is fear of God. Okay? Because most people's conceptions of God are of that of a loving, all-accepting, merciful creator. And, I would definitely agree that God is all those things, but God is also good and just. And God is very capable, as you just heard, of exacting that justice. So this is pretty scary. And if you look at the mainstream, and again, I don't really want to point the finger at anybody. I don't want to bring up names too much. I'd like to talk in abstractions, but more recently in the mainstream news, we hear all about Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton. It's like headline news when they get busted for doing drugs. And apparently those two really enjoy the drugs. These two very beautiful girls with flourishing careers, with a lot of talent, but what are they doing in their spare time? They are out partying, doing drugs. These days, a lot of people are out of work. A lot of people are struggling just to make ends meet, just to feed themselves. But we see these beautiful celebrities, and what are they doing? Well, they're just having a good old time, doing drugs. And it is what it is, okay? I'm not gonna be the judgmental one. I've definitely done my share of drugs, okay? To be perfectly honest with you. But you live and learn, you grow up and you move on, and you attempt to make the right choices in life. That's life. So that's definitely happening. People do like their drugs. But before I go, because I think I'm going to bring this one to an end, I wanted to really thoroughly demonstrate to you how evil life can be in this world. And even though you may not see it or ever hear about it, God sees it all. Okay, and again, there are some that just don't believe in God. They, this is all a bunch of nonsense. That's fine. But I'm still demonstrating to you, I hear that there is true, serious evil out there. And I wanted to read you a quick excerpt from this book I came across. And now I'm not going to tell you the title of the book. I'm not going to tell you the author of the book. I'm not going to tell you what this book is about. I'm not going to explain any of it. All I'm going to say is that this book is nonfiction. It was written in English, in the American dialect. And this book is available. It's out there. It didn't take much for me to get a copy of it. But this just sort of demonstrates the true nature of evil, how evil some people can really get. In case you were wondering, in case you're sitting there scratching your finger and asking yourself, or scratching your head and asking yourself, why would God really exact this kind of justice on us? What did we do? I'm just living my life. I'm a good person. Well, I read you this. Next, I was dropped off at a big house somewhere and taken downstairs to be filmed in child pornography. There were men in leather and chains with guns. A man ripped my clothes off and sodomized me while another guy watched it as it was filmed. Then I was chained up, whipped, and filmed more. They liked it when I cried out. They said I had to in order to make a good film. But I really wanted to be quiet and keep all of it to myself so it would ruin the film. They put a baby on a wooden table and killed her while I was being raped. And they said her lifeblood was filling me and that I liked taking the baby's life into me. I didn't really. I didn't want them to hurt the baby ever, but I had to smile and laugh while they filmed it, or they said I would be killed also. They made these snuff films often with babies or little girls. The younger, the purer, the men said. They believed fetuses were the best to get the purest, untouched lifeblood. They often ingested the flesh afterwards, and sometimes the heart while it was still beating. It was terrifying, vile, and disgusting, and they fed it to me for the filming. I was also forced to smile. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, that was just a short excerpt from this book. Again, I'm not going to tell you the name of the book. I'm not going to tell you what this is about. All I'm going to say is that this is supposedly nonfiction. Okay. Now, this is evil. Okay, you've got bad guys in the world that are eating babies. Okay? They're eating babies. Now, I can't even believe it myself. I really can't. But this is Earth. This is our existence. This apparently is the truth. And you know, I can't see how it's not going to come down. So, people out there, anybody that catches a whiff of this, these are definitely things to think about. It's time to get right with God. It's time to ask yourself some serious questions. And it's time to make a change. So with that, I say thanks again for listening. And until next time.